Irish Media Network. We entertain.
Good evening, folks, and welcome to Irish Media Network's Sports Update. I'm your host, Joe Caulfield, and on tonight's episode, we're going to be bringing you updates, insights, interviews, and reactions from everything that's happening in the world of sport at home and abroad. In the first segment of the show, we're going to be looking at the GAA. And in order to give me an insight into how club and county players are dealing with the current isolation and lockdown period and how that's having knock-on effects on their championship preparation, I'm going to be joined by two guests on the show. Firstly, Michael Glavies and Roscommon centre-back, Conor Hussey, and Mulgar Shamrocks and Westmeath midfielder, Denis Corroon. The two boys are going to be chatting to me about what they would usually be doing to prepare for the championship season at this time, the provincial championship build-up, strength and conditioning, psychological ramp-up, and then the contrast to how they're dealing with isolation, how they're maintaining their strength and conditioning, their health, their sanity, no more than the rest of us. In the second part of the show, we're going to have our global update. The global update is going to be an overview of everything that's happening in the world of sport worldwide. And joining me for that will be Kevin Egan, but we'll talk a little bit more about that later on. Lads, thanks a million for joining me for the GAA Corner. How are you keeping?
Brilliant. All good.
Very good, Joe.
Lads, thank you so much for joining me. Denis, you're joining me from Dublin and Conor from Ballinlough, respectively. Sorry.
Definitely not Loughlin.
Apologies.
What are you joking?
From the Castlereath and Kevin's man, what a slip. How are things, lads? How are you keeping?
Yeah, keeping good anyway from my point of view in these different times, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not doing too bad now. Struggling at the start a small bit, but kind of getting into a good routine now, so getting there.
Good stuff. Well, look, I suppose that's really what I want to talk to you about, as in, like, it's such an unusual time. It's such like a kind of unprecedented time that I want to talk to you a little bit about what you would usually be doing in a typical year, and then get a kind of a contrast to what's happening at the moment. So I suppose to kind of kick things off, Denis, this time of the year, kind of April, May, is the ramp up to the provincial championship. In terms of your weekly routine, what would you usually be doing? How many training sessions, and what would the focus be on in this time of the year?
Well, I guess specifically this time of year, we're in second week of April. So over the last 2 years, we've got the GAA has installed a club month for county players. So you kind of, this is the month you're supposed to go back to your clubs, and you're supposed to kind of dedicate some time to them. But in terms of the county preparation, we would obviously still be training with them. I'm not sure whether that's above board or not, but I guess our championship starts in May. Our provincial first round against Dublin was scheduled for the 23rd of May, and you'll be coming off the back of a very competitive league campaign. So at the moment, the league campaigns are hugely competitive.
Yeah,
and
really good standard of football in the league at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. So we would be just literally, that would have been finished 2 weeks ago. You get a bit of a break, you go back to your club for a week, and then it's, as of say next week, the week after, it's full back to Westmeath from our point of view, and you'd be looking at a 6-week intensive program where you're going to be training on the field at least 3 times, and then in the gym at least 3 times as well. That'll be what a kind of a weekly schedule would look like, starting from next week.
And
for
is
5-6 weeks.
Is that all in camp, everyone training together, doing gym sessions together, doing trial matches together? Would you be playing friendlies with other counties in the build-up to the provincial championship?
Yeah, literally all of those things you said. There'd be collective sessions. There's a lot of travelling, especially from my point of view, based in Dublin. But yeah, all collective sessions on the pitch, all collective sessions in the gym. Obviously, the gym sessions will be a bit more dispersed. There's more accommodation there in terms of you can train with the guys in Dublin and stuff like that. So
yeah.
But yeah, it's all in. It's all in from now on, really.
Fair enough. And then I suppose, Conor, like the thing that's killing me about this year's championship, like, I love this time of the year. This is my favorite time of the year because it's the build up to the provincial championship. Like last year, we had Leitrim, Mayo, Galway, like 3 big rivals, particularly Mayo and Galway, like being a Roscommon man in Connacht. There's been really good level of competitiveness between Mayo, Galway and Roscommon the last 3 years. Standard football has been very, very good. And like provincial championship is tribal. It's the rivalry. It's you really care about winning and losing, particularly when Mayo are involved, from Roscommon's point of view. But is there a big sense of anticlimax this year not having that, or how are you keeping yourself mentally prepared for what might come?
I think there definitely is a big sense of anticlimax. As Denis was saying, the league this year has been very, very competitive. So each team was just trying to focus on doing the best they possibly could. And then this month is a huge month where the county players go back to their clubs. There's some very competitive club games, and then the county scene really gets going then. So April is a tough month because it's hard training and lots of build up for the championship games. But you're not that far away at that stage, so you don't really mind doing the hard training too much. So just this time of year now, or this year in particular, I suppose it's a huge, huge change. Myself personally, I found the first week just kind of in my own head tough enough. I was thinking like, when will there be games? You know what I mean? Why should I train if I don't know when the games are on? But since that week, I kind of just got it back into my head. I'm in a decent routine now again, doing a bit. It's not like you're with the team, but you're trying your best. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and can I ask you on that point, like, has there been any communication by either club or county as to, when, like, if there is a postponement of the championship, when it might be picking up again, and what the structure of it would be like for either of you guys?
Do you want to go, Denis?
So from our perspective anyway, there's been no direct communication on what's going to happen essentially in the next few weeks or months, and I guess that's probably because even the top brass in the GAA don't know yet. I've heard a couple of things about compressed schedules for club and county, whether both championships can be kind of facilitated in a shorter window, but I've yet to see an actual proposal from either our own camp or even in the media as to what it would look like yet. So it's all very still up in the air from my side. Yeah.
And Conor, like for yourself, like either club or county, has there been any kind of insight or kind of direction on what might happen?
Just like Denis, not a word at all. It's a lot of rumours going around, but as I suppose the government doesn't know when these restrictions will be lifted, so the GAA can't really plan ahead yet at all. So kind of completely in the dark. But look, all you can do is kind of keep tipping away, like, you know what I mean? We're trying our best, the club lads too, and they're doing a good job kind of working on their own there. So it's tough, like, but even for your own mental health, it's just important to get out and do a bit of exercise. So
yeah, well, I was going to say that. So let's kind of moving on to my next thing, as in, like, bearing that in mind, is there any kind of set direction in terms of what you should be doing at home now to kind of maintain strength and conditioning and match readiness?
Yeah, so we have a lot of directive from our strength and conditioning coach. We have a new coach this year, Dave Mannix, from Kerry. He's excellent, and he's in constant communication with us. So we do all our own training, say at home or on our own on the roads, or if you have some grassy area, we can do a bit of running. So in terms of that, it's all above board with social distancing, but we have a good program to follow now at the moment.
Give us an insight. What do you ask? Is it tough? Like, is it intensive?
It is. The running's tough. Like, look, I suppose the one thing you're missing is that game conditioning. So it's very hard to replicate that in a football field running on your own. But it's tough running now. Yeah. So we're doing a lot of sprinting, a lot of kind of middle distance running too, and then the home workouts are challenging. So no complaints.
Not on live media, anyways. And yourself, Denis, what are you like? Are you given kind of directives as to what you should be doing, or is it just yourself that's keeping at it?
No. Like Conor there, our strength and conditioning coach is Joan Angle. He runs a business in Mullingar, Wolfham Fitness. He's a brilliant trainer. He's been kind of prescribing us what we have to do on a weekly basis. So it's obviously he's given us a lot of, I suppose, high intensity running. He's given us gym sessions to do what you can with what you have type gym sessions. A lot of them are ones you can do in your sitting room or ones you can do out in a bit of space outside. But in terms of accountability and keeping on top of it, obviously that comes from within the team and it comes from within the group. And I think probably the same with Roscommon as well. Like the team is quite motivated to train and keep on top of things, because you do know that this sometimes it's going to end in the near future. You kind of want to be in certain shape. You might not have that end goal to be aiming at right now, but you do have that kind of internal motivation to keep yourself as sharp as you can be given the circumstances. And our strength and conditioning guy and our management team really kind of keep us motivated through that. So it's good.
That's brilliant, because like as you were saying earlier, Conor, like it must be quite difficult maintaining that kind of drive and the determination, the persistence to really kind of hammer yourself when you don't know that this is the date that I'm playing Dublin, or this is the date that I'm playing Mayo in the first championship of the season.
Yeah, I think that's the really big issue, is just not knowing when you're going to be back at it. And I think from a player's point of view too, it is very important to come back in a relatively decent shape, because you don't want to be getting injured the first week or two you come back, and then you miss a whole host of games that might be on. Like, so I suppose going down to the pitch, well, the pitches are closed now, unfortunately, but before the pitches were closed there, going down and doing a bit was nice. But the last few weeks have been tough. But look, sure, everyone's in the same boat, so do you know what I mean? We're not the only ones who can't train.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. When was the last time? When did you guys break up from training? When was the last club or county training you would have had?
Ours was around March 9th, so just over a month ago, between 4 and 5 weeks ago.
Right.
Just looking at the calendar here, I had it. Ours was the Tuesday, the 11th, I think, of March.
Okay.
So it was a strange moment too, because there was kind of small little bits of talk about the virus kind of spreading and getting more serious. And one player in particular said to me near the end of the session, he said, enjoy this. This could be your last session this year. And I didn't know if he was joking or not, kind of, but
yeah,
possibly could turn out to be true yet. So,
but that's gas as well, because when you think about it, it would have been both of those days would have been prior to Leo Varadkar announcing that schools were closed, the universities were closed, and then the following Tuesday was the 17th of March, Paddy's Day, when he announced that the restrictions were imposed for all workplaces and things like that. So when you were at that last training, you really had no idea that this was coming down the line, did you?
Absolutely not, no. And just the fact that it happened so quick as well was, it's a bit surreal, because your routines and your struggles and your good things and anything that came with county football, and traveling, work life, all of that has just completely lying in the sand, and it's
ceased
like,
immediately. Yeah,
TBC more or less. So it's definitely been strange.
And I suppose that I find that quite interesting as well, because like the team dynamic is great for your personal morale, your personal drive, but also your mental health and wellness. Like, it's good being in a group dynamic. And like, you'd often hear from sports people particularly team sports people who retire, that they get this kind of intense feeling of isolation and vulnerability because they're out of the structure of a team dynamic. That was kind of imposed on you guys very, very quickly. Have you had any of those feelings of kind of loss of the group dynamic that you miss big time?
Definitely, 100%.
Yeah.
Sorry, Denis, go on, keep going.
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, like I really missed the, for want of a better word, banter around the dressing room. I think, the just being around other guys that are kind of on the same wavelength as you, and you're you all have the same common goal, and there's a certain type of grounding in a team environment as well. You kind of ground each other, and you kind of drive each other on, and you kind of you level each other out, I suppose. And you kind of learn from the younger guys, you learn from the older guys. You're constantly learning from that group and from the management team, and now it's just back to you, your phone, and whatever you have in your situation. Like, so it's again, it's a big change. That's very noticeable in your own kind of psyche.
Yeah. Have yourself, Conor?
Yeah, it's an absolutely huge change, and definitely that's what I miss the most, to be the crack with the club and county lads, and just generally the routine you get into. So I'm a teacher in Castlereagh, in County Roscommon, and used to be in a very good routine of working Monday to Friday, obviously, and training Tuesday to Friday, and getting your gym sessions in. So it's a huge change. But look, as we said, it's the same for everyone, and I think after a while now, you kind of start to acclimatise to it a small bit. Once you get to know what day of the week it is when you wake up, because you forget that sometimes. But everyone seems to be kind of getting on okay at the moment. We have a farm here at home too, so there's always plenty of jobs for doing. So
that'll keep you occupied. Lads, I'm going to have to let you go at that point. Thank you so much for joining me for the chat. Really great to kind of get a bit of insight. With the help of God, the championship will return to us and give meaning to our lives soon again. And look, thanks so much for joining me in the meantime. Be well and be safe, and hopefully we'll see you again very, very soon.
No problem. Cheers, Joe. Thanks very much.
Take it easy, lads. Now, folks, on the next section of our show, I alluded to a little bit earlier, we're going to have our global updates. Every single week, I'm going to be chatting to journalists and commentators who have their finger on the pulse of what's going on in terms of global trends worldwide. And this week, I'm incredibly lucky to be joined by Kevin Egan. Kevin's based in Atlanta. He is a CNN sports show host and MLS commentator. Kevin, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, Joe, what a pleasure. Great show, by the way. Loving it so far.
Thanks a million, mate. Thank you so much for being involved. So you're based in Atlanta, and you were just saying that we were chatting a little bit before the show. It was a recent move. You're there since last July. What's happening on the ground in the US at the moment?
Yeah, here since last July. And I might add, I'm of Castlereagh descent as well. My grandfather is Jack Mitchell. I am indeed. Jack Mitchell.
No way.
Proud Castlereagh man, moved to Chicago, Illinois, fought in the Korean War actually for the US, but moved to Chicago before that as a young kid and started a Gaelic football club in Chicago. So, Castlereagh, I'm proud of it too. But yeah, here since last July, Joe.
He wasn't here that.
Yeah, true. And things have changed drastically. It's been crazy for us and my family. We moved into a house here about a month ago. So you can imagine the stress of moving in and knowing that this wave, or tsunami rather, was on the way with coronavirus. And it's drawn a halt to everything. And the US sports fan, and sports fans around the world, but I think more so the US, in that there's so many major sports and they truly live and breathe every single second of it. Every time you turn on the TV in America, there's a live game on of some sort. So you look at this now and say, since March 11th was when Adam Silver, the head of the NBA, decided to make a really strong decision to bring a halt to the NBA. That was totally unexpected. And what that did was it pushed the likes of MLB, which was set to get going, and reluctant owners in many different leagues to say, well, we better follow suit here, because if something happens, one of our players, one of our fans, anyone related to the league, it's on us.
And there was a precedent set then previously that they could have followed.
Exactly. And Adam Silver has been a tremendous leader for the NBA, and huge credit to him. Only yesterday, we saw Karl Anthony Towns. His mother passed away of coronavirus. He's a player with the Minnesota Timberwolves. And with that, then, every time something happens, it's like a reset button with the fear. And we're being thrown all this sort of rubbish from Donald Trump on the news about how it's coming to an end and we'll be back to normal soon. And the problem is half of the country listens to that. They take all that on board and they start to believe that. And then you listen to the actual scientists and Dr. Anthony Fauci, and it seems we're still quite a ways away from that. Now, Major League Soccer today announced that the season, for the first time, by the way, in a press release, they alluded to the fact that we may not see the full season, a full 34-game regular season this year. And I think if we're being honest, we know that that's not going to happen. The season was set to end at the very end of October. So they're going to have to condense the season. But if I'm being honest here, Joe, I think that Major League Soccer could be a league that could come out on top when we just look at global football, because it's single entity. And for those of you watching that may not know what that means, is that the league run pretty much every club. Any big transfer that has to happen, the league has to give an approval for. So when you look at the strength of the overall league compared to, say, the strength of individual ownerships, I fear that we're going to see many clubs fall away from this and leagues be truly threatened by this long term.
In Europe?
In Europe, and around the world. Joe, look at the transfer window. We're not even going to have a transfer window this summer. And look what that alone will do for many clubs that have planned on selling.
And then can I ask you, in terms of other sports moving away slightly from soccer, so obviously some sorts are intending on bouncing back very strong. The UFC seems to be the one leading the charge there. Like, I've only kind of got little glimpses of Dana. Like, I honestly have to say, I think Dana White is such an innovator. He is such an inspiration. I think he's gas, but like, his thing is that we're going ahead. 249 has been delayed. We're building structures on Fight Island. What have you heard about that?
I mean, go for it. If you can make that work, can you imagine the global audience that are absolutely desperate for some live sport? I turned on Fox Sports 1 the other day, and I had a rerun of the 2016 Copa America final between Chile and Argentina. And I knew that Messi was going to miss the penalty. I knew it was going to go to penalties and Argentina were going to lose with Tata Martino in charge. Yet I was just praying and begging that the thing would be live, because I just missed that overall feeling and sensation. And we're desperate for it. So if Dana White can go and do that, all power to him. And in UFC as long as it's safe. The other thing that's experiencing a major boom over here and around the world is esports. And
yes,
no real surprise, if I'm being honest.
And you're a big esports aficionado yourself. You hosted a couple of FIFA tournaments, global FIFA tournaments. How's that transpiring?
Yeah, it's a funny thing because my mother, Kathy, who may be watching in Raheny in Dublin right now, she'll say to me, "Are you working on the funny soccer again?" And I'll say, "Yeah, I am. Yeah." But esports is huge. The industry is booming completely.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
When you think about how it's doing now, I've talked to a few of the guys that play, and I don't play myself. I'm a host, so I hopefully ask the right questions. And the guys that are playing are taking to their streams, and their stream numbers on Twitch are just rising and rising every single day. And now you have national networks here in the US organizing tournaments, MLS tournaments, NASCAR tournaments, and it's mad to sit down on your couch, put the feet up, and turn this on. And then try to have an interest, and somewhere along the line, because you've got that itch and that will to want to watch something live, it kind of captivates you, it grabs you, and it's a really weird feeling for that to happen.
But you know what's gas? Like that kind of reminds me of watching even FIFA tournaments amongst my mates, and when someone would be very good, anything played well. Yeah. Is worth watching to an extent. So I can totally understand the appeal for people who play the game avidly themselves, and then they see someone with a skill level far superior to their own and can appreciate that.
I'm telling you, with esports alone, Joe, and I'm sorry if I'm going off on a bit of a tangent about that. It's something that I've grown a massive appreciation for as a skill. And you talk to a lot of the guys and you ask them, is it a sport? And half will say, or more than half will say, absolutely. If you want to talk about darts as a sport, well, then you look at this as a sport because we practice and we train day in and day out. There's esports houses in Los Angeles and New York and other places in America that house the gaming companies, house these e-athletes and have them practice a certain amount of times of the day. They have them work out as well. They have certain meal routines because they need to keep the mind fresh. It's crazy and it's only growing. And now there's millions of dollars as prize money for several different games. And I know FIFA only ranks 20th in terms of overall prize money worldwide.
That's incredible. And like, obviously, look at both of those things that you're saying is very indicative of the scale of growth of the industry. Just before I let you go, because unfortunately I'm going to have to let you go quite soon, when do you expect to see your return to the Premier League?
The Premier League, as of right now, I hate to say I don't know, but no one knows. And the big talk right now is and the whole null and void thing. And if that was to happen, can you imagine Liverpool? As an Aston Villa fan, I would be over the moon. We stay, we survive, we go again next year. But Liverpool and all the records they've set, you think about like Lionel Messi and some of the records getting close to Pele's overall goal total and some of the other things to consider here. But overall, I think there's a much bigger picture here, and that's the financial side. And the amount of money pumped in by TV networks all over the world for Premier League rights, they're going to have their say, and that could really come back on the Premier League, who've already made a gigantic mess of the coronavirus by trying to continue to play, by not nipping this in the bud straight away, and also putting pressure on the players to pony up some money when the players were doing that behind the scenes. They just hadn't gone public yet. I think the Premier League have already made a mess. That the last thing they should do is rush back into playing, and we could see a spike in coronavirus again, which would be a disaster.
100%. There is a bigger picture, as very well you said. Thank you so much for joining me. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to let you go. Great to meet another Castlereagh man, even of Detached Descent. Come here, thanks so much. Good luck with the new house and everything in Atlanta, and hopefully we'll see each other again on Irish Media Network Sport Update.
Go on there, Rossies. Take care, Joe.
Talk to you soon, mate. Bye. That's it for the first episode of Irish Media Network Sport Update. I'm your host, Joe Caulfield. Please tune in again next week. I'll be giving you all the updates. Leave comments. Join Irish Media Network on Instagram, on Twitter, on YouTube, and we will give you all information about what is to come. For now, look after yourself, stay safe, and join us next week.
Irish Media Network.